other folks who aren't able to join us can look at it later. So today we're talking about Raise the Dough, which some of you are familiar with and others of you are not. So I have you all on mute at the moment. There'll be time for questions, and I'll ask a couple of campus kitchens to talk about what they do for Raise the Dough to you at one point during the presentation, or a couple of different points actually. But in the meantime, I'm going to have you all on mute just to reduce background noise. All right, so you should be able to see my screen. If you can't, let me know by typing in the chat box. And if you have any questions throughout this presentation, you're more than welcome to type them and ask them in the chat box before you forget. I don't want anyone to forget any questions that they might have during the presentation. All right, so the Raise the Dough Challenge is a fundraising competition between campus kitchens that happens for 7 days. This year is February 20th through the 27th, which is a Friday to a Friday. And it starts at midnight Friday the 20th, so at 12:01 a.m. and ends at 11:59 p.m. on the 27th. So it's 7 full days. And campus kitchens compete against one another to see who can raise the most money and who can rally the most donors as a campus kitchen fundraiser. And then the successful schools who are the best fundraisers will win prizes, which we'll talk about in a minute. This is going to be the 3rd year that we've done Raise the Dough in the way that we do it right now. The sort of competition fundraiser has existed for a few years prior to that, but it's really been in the last 3 years that we've had a lot of campus kitchens engaged in the fundraiser. And that campus kitchens have raised the most money. So we think that we've tried to work with all the campus kitchens who participate and with those who'd like to create a really dynamic fundraiser that's really successful for everyone who participates. So just to give you sort of a visual, this is what the Raise the Dough Challenge looks like on Razoo. And this is this year's fundraiser, and you'll see that we already have 5 schools participating, and there are 5 nationally staffed schools. And no one else has really had the chance to participate yet, so clearly this is not our fundraising pool, and this will expand. But this is sort of what it looks like on our online platform. So we use Razoo because we found it to be the most effective online crowdsourced fundraising platform out there. And provides the most functionality and allows us to do this team fundraiser. So anyone who's interested in seeing who's participating and who's raised the most money and rank them can go to this page and see exactly who is participating in Raise the Dough, how much money has been raised, how many people are participating, etc. So you'll see this is a screenshot, so this isn't like an active countdown, but in the upper right of the page it tells you right now a countdown until the fundraiser starts, and then once the fundraiser starts it tells you how many days are left to raise money. And then it gives total raise towards our goal, which might change but currently stands at $30,000 total. And we'll tell you how many donors are engaged in the entire fundraising team. I'll also show you what last year's fundraiser looks like to give you a bit of an idea what it looks like as a fundraiser is going. So the page will change that I just showed you to have a little bit of a prettier header like this one does with some pictures. And again, you can see that last year we raised just under $27,000 total, engaged more than 500 donors, and had 20 fundraisers participate, which means that 19 campus kitchens participated, and then we as the national office also had a fundraising page. And so again, this is just a screenshot so you can't see the whole list of schools, but you can scroll all the way down. And then another really cool feature that Razoo allows is for people to comment on fundraisers, and so there will be comments and people getting excited and encouraging others to donate for their school to further the competition. So that just gives you sort of a sense what the team looks like when it's actually happening. I'm also going to show you what an individual donor page looks like, just to, again, so that you can sort of get a visual for what does it look like to participate and Raise the Dough on Razoo. So this page is the Campus Kitchen at Gettysburg College's fundraiser from last year. And we'll get into this in a minute, but I, through the national office, set up all your fundraising pages, so they'll all sort of start off looking very similar. And they will be, to some extent, sort of standardized in some ways. How's that for a very big sense? What I mean by that is all of your pages, all of your fundraisers will be called Raise the Dough for CK, whatever your Campus Kitchen is. Then right below that, they'll all say the Campus Kitchen at whatever school you are, fundraiser for the Campus Kitchens Project, Inc. And then sort of below that, you'll have the opportunity to customize your page. And I picked the Campus Kitchen at Gettysburg's fundraiser because they did a really great job customizing their page, especially in terms of really compelling photos, which is something that we'll talk about a little later in the webinar. On ResView, on the live site, you have the option to upload multiple photos and actually videos as well, and the page will kind of scroll through them. And so you just see now there's one of their photos is static. And what Campus Kitchen at Gettysburg uses Raise the Dough for is to raise funds for their Healthy Options program, which I might have Tammy tell you a little bit about later. So this is a great photo that they use to represent what their Healthy Options program is, and so it gives you a great visual of what the money that you're donating, if you are a donor, is going towards. Sort of similar to the team page, you can see on the right what their goal is and how much money they've raised. And again, if the fundraiser was live, it would also tell you how many days, and then at the very end, how many hours are left in the fundraiser. You can see how many donors they engage, which is a great number. A really great big donate button, which clearly takes your donors to a page where they can donate. And then something else cool about this fundraising page is you'll see just under the donate button, you'll see 2 different donation levels. There are actually more than 2. There are probably about 5 or 6 donation levels on the entire page, but again, I just did a top screenshot. You can designate donation levels that your donors can choose instead of asking them to sort of pull a number out of the hat. You can say, all right, donate $10, and that equals 1 box, or a box of cut gloves that will last us 1 semester, something like that. So you can see that what Gettysburg has done is set their donation levels. The first 2 were $22 and $44, and $22 procured half a month of fresh fruit and vegetables for a family in their Healthy Options program, and $44 was a whole month of fresh fruit and vegetables for a family in that program. And there's continued on in varying and increasing levels of support. Something that's really cool about you might look at these numbers, 22 and 44, and say, hey, those are kind of off numbers. And that, I think, is a cool fundraising strategy that we'll talk about again in a minute. So this is just a really great example of a compelling fundraising page. And the Campus Kitchen at Gettysburg College actually was quite successful last year. And we'll talk about that more in just a second. So we try to make Raise the Dough as easy as possible for you all to participate in. So here you can see just some of what we do versus what we expect you all to do as participants. So the Campus Kitchens Project sets up your fundraising page, as I said, and includes some more generic Raise the Dough fundraising language in the description of that page that then you're able to edit that's more customized to your Campus Kitchen. We take care of administrative fees. ResView does charge administrative fees to use their site. That's how they stay in business. And then we charge slightly more on top of that to cover the administrative fees from our office, from us managing the fundraiser. And all of this is laid out in the MOU that you'll need to sign in order to participate. We provide sample social media posts and graphics for you all to use. And again, they're not mandatory, but to try to get you set off to have some compelling social media posts to drive some donor engagement through your Facebook and Twitter pages. We provide national promotion. We promote the entire fundraiser from a very neutral perspective. We don't ask for any particular donations for any particular Campus Kitchens, but we do request that our national following participate in the competition however they see fit. And so there, by doing that, we're showing your fundraiser to a larger donor pool that you may have in your community. And we also provide prizes and the incentive of competition. So we've seen that fundraisers are more effective when there's that competition component. And those of you who are new Campus Kitchens that launched from a launch grant competition probably also saw that you could galvanize donors and get them excited the closer that you were in the running to another Campus Kitchen in whatever capacity that was. So for Raise the Dough, we've seen that if there are a couple of Campus Kitchens that are sort of vying for second, third, fourth, really any place, it's a great motivator to your donors to say, hey, we're just $25 away from being in third place. Will you get us there today? And so by rallying you all together and having this competition, we are providing a more effective fundraiser than you may be able to do on your own. That might not be true for all of you. Some of you can pull off really awesome fundraisers, but together we're able to raise a lot of great money for the network. In return, these are the couple of things that we ask that you all do to participate. Once we set up your fundraising page and pass off the administration of that page to you, we ask that you fill in the fundraiser details, which include adding photos and videos, if you have videos, include adding those donation amounts, personalizing the text on the page, and customizing a thank you for your donors, all of which is extremely easy to do in Razoo. We ask that you promote it to your fans and get your local donor base excited about it. Those of you who have participated in Raise the Dough in years past have a list of your donors from last year, and I'll provide that list again to you in the coming days and weeks. And so you already sort of have a donor base that you can start with and say, hey, you supported us last year. Would you please support us again this year? Those of you who don't have that may have other donor bases you can think about and other groups that you can brainstorm to do specific outreach to. And so just in general, that we ask that you get your potential donors and your fans excited about the competition and rallied around it. And in doing so, we ask that you compete. Like I said, the more competitive the competition is, the more successful it'll be for everyone. So you might be wondering how much dough we're talking about raising. And so as you saw last year, our fundraising total was just under $27,000. And these were our top 3 fundraising schools. The Campus Kitchen at Gettysburg raised a little over $7,600. St. Louis was just under $4,000, and William & Mary was just under $3,000. So we didn't have any super tight races at the very beginning this year. Gettysburg sort of started and took it right away, so they're a great Campus Kitchen to look out for this year, and someone that has had great success in the past. In terms of number of donors, the Campus Kitchen at UGA engaged the largest number of donors. They had 107 people contributing to their campaign. Gettysburg was just under with 89, and St. Louis just under them with 68. And in total, we had 537 donors contribute in 2014. It's worth noting that in 2013, when we had just a couple of other Campus Kitchens participating, we engaged more than 700 donors. So there's real potential in this campaign to galvanize a lot of people. So these are the prizes or participation levels that we will give prizes for. We give out a prize to the Campus Kitchen that raises the most money, is first place. A prize to the Campus Kitchen that gets second place and third place, and the Campus Kitchen that gets the most donors. And actually, this list is slightly misleading in the fact that the first place prize is the largest, but the second place prize is not the second largest. The most donors prize is the second largest. And we have not finalized our amounts yet, which is why they're not listed on here. But I can tell you that that will be the order, that the first place winner will get the largest cash prize, and the most donor winner will get the second largest cash prize. And one of the reasons that we ask you to engage lots of donors is we realize that part of your donor base is college students, or those who are supporting college students. And especially college students may not have a lot of money to donate. And so the minimum donation on Razoo is $10. And so we really encourage you to encourage your donors to just give $10. A $10 donation times 100 donors is a lot more than 1 or 2 really large donations, quite clearly. And so we think that's a really great way to get lots of people excited about your Campus Kitchen, is to encourage small donations. So here's sort of the nitty-gritty on how you can get your Campus Kitchen involved in Raise the Dough. And again, we try to make it pretty easy. So we ask that you complete and submit an MOU by February 6th, which is a Friday, the first Friday in February. And the MOU states a couple of main points. It's longer than these 3 bullets, and you can read the whole thing. I will send it out to all of you who participated after the call today. And the MOU is also already on the pantry. But it states that the competition runs from February 20th to 27th. So you'll have access to your pages before then. The team page will only announce that the competition has started on February 20th, but there's really no way to prevent your Razoo page from accepting donations before or after the fact. However, because the competition only runs from the 20th to the 27th, we only count donations that are given in that time. So if you have someone who's really excited and donates on the 19th, you will still receive that money, but it will not count towards your competition fundraising total, and therefore will not count to the amounts that we calculate to figure out who wins those prizes we just talked about. Sort of similarly, only online donations count towards that fundraising total. So in Razoo, you do have the option to enter offline donations and say, oh, we got a $50 cash donation, and sort of add it to your fundraising total to reach your goal. And if you would like to use Raise the Dough to receive cash donations on campus, that's totally fine with us. But we do not count them towards the Raise the Dough total. And then, like I said, we hold 10% of the funds raised to cover administrative costs on Razoo's end and administrative costs on our end. So a little closer look at the timeline that we're talking about. So again, your MOU is due by the end of the day on February 6th, and it must be signed by an authorized Campus Kitchen representative. And that is who that representative is entirely up to your Campus Kitchen. For some of you, that might be your faculty advisor or the staff person that is heavily involved in running your campus kitchens. Others of you, that may be your campus kitchen president, but we ask that you make that judgment call on who's the best representative of your campus kitchen. If you're worried that you cannot get that MOU signed and delivered back to us by the 6th, please talk to me or your program manager, and we'll see what we can do. But we strongly encourage you to do it by then. And to submit an MOU, you can either email it, again, to your program manager or to me. After I receive your MOU, I create your page. And so I promise to you that those pages will be ready by close of business on February 9th, which is the following Monday. And again, I will put general language on Raise the Dough in your page. And when I submit to you, when I turn it back over to you and give you the login information, I also provide you with a document on how to use Razoo. So that walks you through how to update your page and how to do all the other things that you need to do to get ready for Raise the Dough. So February 9th is almost 3 weeks before the fundraiser even starts, and so that gives you plenty of time to update your page, to figure out exactly what content you want to include on it, and get ready so that it is ready to go by the time the competition starts. And then so after you receive your page, it's up to you to customize it. So these are sort of the different things that you can do to customize your page in Razoo. You can edit the text to tell your compelling story, which is what we're going to be talking about after we finish talking about Raise the Dough specifically. You can add video and photos. Razoo does say that fundraisers with videos can generally raise more money than fundraisers without. So if you already have a great campus kitchen video, that's something that you should include. And maybe in your Raise the Dough planning, that's something that you think about making, is a short 1 minute or maybe slightly more, maybe slightly less video that shares a compelling story about your campus kitchen. You need to set a fundraising goal, which really helps drive donations near the end. If people can see like, oh, they're so close to getting to that goal, I'll help them get there. That can sometimes motivate a donor who's on the fence to actually donate. We ask that you create those donation levels, and so indicate to donors what their monetary support helps you achieve. And then we ask that you customize thank yous. So Razoo is really great. As soon as someone donates to a Razoo fundraiser, it sends out an automatic tax receipt email and thank you email. And you have the opportunity to customize that thank you email and say, thank you so much for your support of our campus kitchen. Maybe reiterate what your goals are for the year or what your goals are through the fundraiser, and ask them to share it with their friends, anything that you'd like to include, but you have the opportunity to do that. So at this point, I'd like a couple of our campus kitchens that have participated in the past to share some of their general tips for success. I've asked them not to give away their state secrets because it is a competition. But Jenny, are you, hold on a second, are you on the call?
Yes.
Great. So Jenny is the coordinator of the campus kitchen at St. Louis University, one of our nationally staffed kitchens, and she has some tips for her continued success that she'd like to share.
Sure. Well, I'll just talk about 3 quick things. The first is we really have found it helpful to have some sort of visible kickoff to mobilize our team. You know, just sending out an email and saying, okay, everybody, put this on your Facebook page. Well, you need to do that. That's necessary. But beyond that, I think it's really good for the team, and it gives people, your leadership, your students, more engaged if you have some sort of an event. We've traditionally done a bake sale. I know other kitchens have done pancake dinner, penny wars. One school did something called Fund the Fridge, where they stood out on the quad. They had a little cardboard fridge with, cut out food on it. Some were marked $1, some were marked $2. People would come up and buy a, little piece of paper food and give that much money. And you say, well, how can that help us? The minimum donation is $10, and it all has to be online. So we just kind of have one person be the point person, someone that has a credit card, take that money, and then put that as a donation, one bulk donation onto our thing. And as I said, it's really more about mobilizing your team, working on something together, getting everybody together at the start of the event just to kind of kick things off and raise that energy up. And we've found it really helps. The second thing is the importance of social media, which is obvious. But Linda always sends out tons of great templates pretty much every day, if I recall. There's something out there, something to tweet, something to put on Facebook, great little phrases. And the importance of, during the whole campaign, keeping all your supporters apprised of where you are, how close you are to your goals, picking some sort of mini rivalry, even if you're not really in competition to, win the whole thing, maybe you just want to meet your goal, or maybe you pick a rival, a school that's close to you regionally, a sports rival, similar-sized schools. Gonzaga and I, friends with Emily, and so we always have a friendly rivalry online just to kind of get our supporters engaged. Say, hey, we're only $50 away from moving from 6th place into 7th. So things like that kind of keep people engaged in the whole campaign. And they really, surprisingly, they work. And then finally, the importance of targeting parents, friends, relatives, family, friends, and getting your students involved in doing that. I think some students are like, oh, the school asked them for money, we asked them for money, we don't necessarily want to, but, parents want to be, our families, family friends, want to be engaged with their students when they're away at school. It's a very simple thing. You're only asking for $10 minimum, so it's kind of thing where you can have your students, your volunteers, email something out to their family friends. It gets forwarded, gets liked on Facebook, and of course we want our students to participate and support this thing that they're a part of, but we found that targeting people that aren't necessarily even on campus, or maybe faculty and staff who are on campus, people that maybe have a little more, are at a phase of life where they can afford to be a little more generous, that's been really helpful to us. So those are the main 3 things that we focus on.
Super. Thanks so much, Jenny. All right. And then the other campus kitchen that, as you know, has had success in engaging a large quantity of donors in particular is the campus kitchen at UGA. And they were not able to be on the call today because they have a delivery happening right now. But they did send me a couple points, and probably it makes sense, but a lot of them are very similar to what Jenny said, so I'll just reiterate a couple things. UGA really focuses on trying to put on unique campus tabling events. So for one example, which I think is genius, and since you're not on their campus and your students aren't on their campus either, hopefully it would be okay for me to tell you that but they received donated cookie dough and flowers from a grocery store, and then they had a table on campus and handed those out to people and suggested a donation in return. And so they also, at that table, had an iPad so that people could make donations on the spot. And actually, Razoo has changed in the last 12 months, so none of you have experienced this, but Razoo now allows you to make a donation with PayPal. So you don't even have to have a credit card on you. You can go in and log into your PayPal account and make a donation on Razoo, which hopefully would even help get more people who are just walking by a campus table to donate. They also have a short flyer to hand out, so if people weren't able to donate on the spot, they would learn more about what UGA was raising money for and have the link to go and donate later. The flowers and the cookie dough, they say, were super eye-catching and unique for people who walked by. I also appreciate that the cookie dough plays into the Raise the Dough theme, so that is cool, if you ask me. They also tried to play up the aspect that it's a competition, sort of what Jenny was saying. And they also encouraged their leadership team to remember that and spend one of their weekly leadership team meetings having everyone write an email or letter to 5 family or friends about the competition. They know that they don't have a lot of large donors in their pockets, so they really try to concentrate on getting as many small donations as they can, as I said. And UGA actually raised in the top 4. I don't remember which place they were, but the reason that they weren't listed in the top 4 donors is because they won that number of donors prize. So by engaging a lot of smaller donors, they actually successfully raised a lot of money. So I think that maybe encouraging your leadership team to really get engaged is another tip for success. And that doesn't mean that they have to donate all of the money, but asking them to really focus on asking 5 specific people to donate is a tip for success. Just a general fundraising best practice is that social media posts are great, but if that's the only way that someone is asked, sort of in that indirect manner, they're less likely to donate than if they're asked directly. So that's just something to keep in mind, is that a direct ask is always more effective. All right, so at this point, I've got a couple of other things. Another thing that I will send to you that I'm not mentioning, once you submit your MOU, Jenny said that you get social media tips. That's true. You also get tips for each day I email you during the competition. And then I also have just some general sort of online fundraising tips that I'll also send to you for you and your leadership team to consider as you figure out what you're going to do for the week. So Raise the Dough also has a really great social media presence, which is fun, and so we use hashtag #RaiseDough on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever other platforms you use that have hashtags. And another tip that we recommend is that you prepare sample posts for other groups you'd like to support you. So maybe it's your sponsoring office or the Alumni Association or the Center for Civic Engagement on your campus if that's not your sponsoring office. You can probably repurpose some of the ones that I send you to then send to those people and say, hey, would you support us by posting about this on your Facebook account this week? We'd really appreciate it. And then the URL for that competition page that I've already shared with you is razoo.com/team/RaiseTheDough2015 with dashes in between. So you can check out that page at any time. And again, I will send that URL to you once you submit your MOU and I set you up on Raise the Dough. All right, so at this point, I'm going to unmute everyone and ask if anyone has any questions about anything that we've talked about so far.
Hey, Linda, it's Emily.
Hey.
I had a question, and I think I must have misunderstood. It was part of talking about how you can't stop donors. You can't stop donors from donating early.
Yeah.
Or late, and then you said something else about not allowing money to be collected. What was it? Cash to be collected?
Mm-hmm.
What was that part?
Yeah, so, oh, hold on, I'm sorry. So I'm just going to mute you all while I answer this question. The way that Razoo works, so this is the first part of what I said. The way that Razoo works is that you cannot, you can set a fundraiser end date, but you cannot set a fundraiser start date. So when I set you up on Raise the Dough at the beginning of February, you can set it so that it's not a searchable fundraiser, and the likelihood of some random person coming across your fundraiser and donating it is between slim and none. But if you start sharing your fundraiser with people ahead of time to get them excited about it, which is something that I do actually recommend, if someone were to donate before the competition technically starts on February 20th, you will still receive that money at the end of the day back from us. But we will not count that donation into your fundraising total when we calculate who wins prizes. And the same thing sort of goes for cash. So if you do an on-campus fundraiser or a local fundraiser and you're asking for cash donations, that is great. But unless the only way that you can get those cash donations to count towards your Raise the Dough online fundraising total was if you were to make a donation of the equivalent amount that you received cash for into Razoo. So you can do that, but you cannot, there's functionality in Razoo to say we received $50 in cash donation, and it like puts it in yellow on the fundraising bar like, oh, they raised this much in cash too. Those we will not count towards your fundraising total. Does that answer your question, Emily?
I think so. So we can't do events and raise cash during that week on campus and have that counted towards our Razoo page?
Not unless you make an equivalent donation online.
Oh, okay. So we could gather cash from an event online and then donate it onto the page?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
You can
That
do that
was what I wasn't clear on. Okay.
I'm sorry. Yes.
No, it's okay.
Had two more questions come in online, one of which was where do you find the MOU? The MOU right now is on the Campus Kitchen Pantry under fundraising if you have access to that. And then I will also email you all, everyone who's participating on the call, the MOU when we're done. So you'll have it in your inbox later today. Another question. Last time we participated, only one credit card could be used. It sounds like this has changed. Is it still one donation and one credit card? That's a great question. I'm pretty sure the answer is that has changed, but I don't know for sure. I can try to find out and let you know. What happened in the past is that if someone made a donation on their primary credit card, they wouldn't be able to make another donation later, again, on that credit card, and I'm pretty sure that that has changed. So that one person would be able to make as many donations as they feel so called to do. All right, any other questions? Those have been great so far. All right, so give me one sec. All right, Phil, are you on the line? Oh, hold on one second, guys. Sorry, I'm having a technical difficulty. Bear with me just one second. All right. So, sorry everyone, I'm trying to manage too many things at once. All right, so we are ready to move on to the next portion. Let me just cue it up. All right. So we have a guest speaker on the line right now who is going to talk to us about compelling ways to share stories when it comes to fundraising to galvanize your donors. So on the line we have Phil Havayana, and I'm sorry if I just butchered your last name, Phil. He is the Supervisor of Engagement at Meredith Accelerated Marketing, MXM, where he oversees content and engagement strategy for entertainment and lifestyle clients. What doesn't say on the screen right now is that Phil earned his bachelor's in public communication from American University here in DC, and his MA/MSc in global communications from the London School of Economics and the Annenberg School at the University of Southern California. So he's been all over the place. And something I do want to highlight about his work background is that Phil previously worked prior to joining MXM for City Year, LA, where he managed their online social and event marketing initiatives. And so he's got a lot of experience with this sort of online engagement and to some extent some online fundraising experience as well. So at this point, I'm going to turn things over to Phil.
Hey guys, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we can. And I'm going to mute everyone else for the time being.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Linda, for the introduction. I'm super excited to be here and happy to share with you guys some general tips on effective storytelling, things I've learned from kind of doing this for a career for the past 10 years now, I guess, and you know, just and a few case studies that might be of use to you. Just a quick caveat, I'm going to use many of my examples from my experience at City Year. I was there for about 5 years, and I really, you know, in terms of effective storytelling, especially around activating people, you know, to take action to important causes, it is definitely a great laboratory to develop some best practices and techniques. And so, you know, a lot of the points I'm going to touch on today are going to be, you know, familiar to you. You've been talking about, you've had some great tips on the call earlier, and like I said, many of these are going to be coming from my practical experience, kind of doing this type of work. So this slide is just kind of shows a couple of things that to keep in mind to develop an effective story. The first point is, and this is something I've told folks, for years, is to understand your story and understand your tactics. So this isn't really in the social media context. This is just in general. It's amazing how often this doesn't happen when it comes to sharing important information with folks. So when inspiring people to act, it's important to remember what's called the golden circle, leading with the why, following with the how, and ending with the what. At the center of everything that you do, anything that you do, is the reason that you do it and why it's personal to you. And when people understand that, I think they're more willing to hear the rest of the things that they have to do to kind of follow up to help you. So, for example, at City Year, I'd coach our AmeriCorps members, on how to talk about it. So, for example, I would say, an example of, a quick understanding of, one's personal brand and one's story would be, for example, a corps member would say, if it's in the education context. And for those of you, before I put this up, I think I'm going to say, City Year is an education nonprofit, and we work in schools to provide, support for students who are at risk of dropping out. So corps members would say something like, a corps member would say something like, I believe that all students should have a strong mentor because I am a product of what can happen when someone invests in a child's education. So I'm dedicating a year of my life to providing the same support to my students by working with City Year. If you want to help me support my students, here's what you can do. That's just, that was just saying of like, why I'm personally affected by something. So, having strong mentors is something I believe in. So in this context, having access to, to food would be something that you might want to tweak. But that's to say, like, what you believe, and then going on from there to develop, what you're going to do, what people can do to help you. So really keep it real, make it personal to you, and make sure you understand the main points you're trying to get across. Once you understand your story, you can start developing a voice. And so this is, when it comes to, executing a communications plan on different social channels. How do you talk about, what your story is? What is the tone? What are the words that you're using to describe what you're going to do? So I like to imagine on any brand I'm working on. I like to imagine the brand as a person at a party. So what are the words it uses? Who is it talking to? That type of thing. By doing that, you can start developing a perspective, a point of view, and a consistent way of communicating to different networks. If you're using different networks for your campaign, your personal networks for your campaigns, you want to integrate your voice into the promotions, into the calls to action with what you're doing. So you can always tell when someone copies and pastes something into their profile or into an email. So you definitely want to use your voice or leverage your voice to tell an authentic story. And is there another slide after that? Yep. So once you have that, so once you've once you develop your understanding of your story, once you develop your voice, you can start creating your goals. And I won't go into this too much. It sounds like you guys have a pretty good background there. Something I always use is a SMART goal model: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Just to make sure that as I think about my strategy, how I know what I'm trying to ladder up to, and the types of things that are going to be most effective for what I'm trying to achieve. So once you do that, it's time to choose your channels. And so something to keep in mind, when you're choosing your channels, and by channels I mean obviously like the different types of social networks you might use, social profiles, emails, platforms, blogs, things like that. Which networks are going to give you the most bang for your buck? Each network behaves differently and is good at different things. So you want to consider what where you're going to spend your time. It sounds like emails, personal notes, but also Facebook messages, or Instagram, something that you should consider, blogs, Snapchat, even, all of the above, and do all the calls to action lead back to your resume page. You need to figure that out for yourself, but it's definitely it's definitely a big piece because the medium is the message many times as well. And so once you choose your channels, you can go into developing the content for the channels you chose. Each channel, like I was saying before, has its own logic, its own sensibility. Communities, people act differently on different channels. So the best thing to do here is have fun and experiment. How best to access those channels or leverage those channels. What I find really helpful, and I'll go into this in a minute, is creating an editorial calendar for yourself so that you can kind of figure out what you're saying on each channel at different times. And so once you have that, you've chosen your channel, you have your goals, you've chosen your channels, you can start executing your content. And when it comes to executing on social media, engagement is key, right? So you always want to thank your supporters. If there are questions on a post that you have, for example, on Facebook, definitely answer those posts in a timely manner and share progress as you're going. One example I like to bring up, and I'm not sure if we can bring it up on this particular on the next slide, but something you can definitely look up yourself is City Year's Make Better Happen campaign on Twitter. So,
do you want me to pull it up there? I can.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah, just keep talking. Give me a sec.
Okay, sure. So City Year had this problem of trying to figure out how best to communicate to different audiences what it is that core members do every day. And like I said, core members work in schools every day with at-risk youth, making sure they're on track to graduate. And so, it's a big endeavor. But how do you get the kind of general public aware of what people are doing every day? So we thought a hashtag campaign on Twitter would be the best channel, one of the best channels for us to use. Our target demographic of 18 to 24-year-olds is largely on Twitter, and it's a great way to share stories from multiple locations across the country and create a dynamic kind of national conversation. So the idea is, people share in tweets, what they're doing in schools every day. For example, a lead one that we have that we've used in the past a lot came from one core member. The tweet read, "If kids who drop out of school are 8 times more likely to end up in prison, do we open more prisons or more minds? Hashtag make better happen." And that type of thinking, that type of language, that type of tone are the types of things that we wanted to kind of share with our general audience just to start a national conversation. And it's really effective for us. As you can see here, the conversation happens every day, every minute while we're in service, while the core members are in service. And it's really helped to elevate, one, our social media presence, but two, our general awareness. And from there, we can start building in actions like fundraising, like recruiting more core members, like recruiting more schools for to be part of the program. So that's one example. Feel free to take a deeper dive when you guys have time to read the tweets. It's always really a nice little dose of inspiration for me.
Interject for 1 second, if you don't mind. Seeing this tweet here from a team in Stanton, for all of you Campus Kitchens that participated in our Join the Movement campaign in September, you see this guy is holding a sign, why he serves, and we did similar signs still back in September, I fight hunger because. And I think those sorts of holding your statement of why you do what you do and why you're fundraising for what you're fundraising for are A, popular, and B, pretty effective. And that I love that. So I think that's a great, and then you can also use that Raise Dough hashtag, and hopefully we can kind of aggregate to some level what this Make Better Happen hashtag is aggregating as well.
Yeah, fantastic. It's definitely, these hashtags are definitely great ways to aggregate these national conversations and create, a national, something to point to for people to feel part of something bigger than their localities.
Absolutely.
So that's Make That Happen. Feel free to check out some more of that. And now I'm just going to offer a couple tips, and some things to keep in mind, when you're creating content. So the first one is to make content shareable and relatable. Think about how you interact with your social media feeds every day, and think about what makes you stop scrolling. So you're on your phone, all of a sudden you see something that makes you stop in your tracks. What is it? Why did it happen? Was it humor? Was it an interesting fact? Was it strong imagery? Was it a combination of all those things? Think about that when you're developing content for your social channels. For example, at your school, do you have a mascot? Do people love it? People saw the mascot in some interesting situation with a sign that kind of reinforces your message. Would that cause them to stop? That type of thing. So make content shareable and relatable. Make an editorial calendar. This is something, when campaigns are going full force, it's hard. You can get caught up in the moment, lose sight of kind of the objectives, and kind of just start reacting. So it's always helpful to just organize yourself around what your objectives are. So you can also kind of plan out, are there upcoming holidays you can jump on, Valentine's Day, for example, or St. Patrick's Day, whatever. Can you tap into Throwback Thursdays or Women Crush Wednesdays, things like that. Figure out what that is for you. Also figure out the best time. You can also figure out the best times to post if you have an editorial calendar. So if you know that, for example, if you're at your school, if you know that most people check their phones, between classes, maybe the best, and between classes between 9:55 and 10 o'clock. Maybe you post a new post at that time, so you have them widest reach possible. Diversify your content, and figure out what type of content works for each platform. For example, Facebook, it likes longer messages. It has a longer shelf life, highly visual. Twitter is shorter messages, shorter shelf life, quick call to action. Instagram, you really need to focus on the images. YouTube, you were talking about YouTube earlier, keeping it short, 2 to 3 minutes, that type of thing. And consider the medium too when you're raising awareness. Are people on their phones, on laptops, on tablets, things like that. And finally, expanding the reach to your network of influencers. So, no, you're not alone in this, obviously, and so can you tap other people with large social followings, large influence, to help you out and to post things to add to the chorus of voices around your cause. Whose stats updates do you always read locally on your campus, in your group of friends, things like that. And so those types of things are definitely those types of people can definitely help you keep front and center, top of mind in your networks. So I have some resources there. The Golden Circle talk on TED is what I referenced earlier. Take a look at it. It's really inspiring when you start thinking about developing your personal understanding of your story. I mentioned Make Better Happen, and then I just pulled a article on Forbes that had some interesting highlighted some interesting brands working in social media, just to give you an idea of different ways large brands use content and to help inspire you to do the same.
Awesome. And I will send this presentation out with the other things that I've already promised you guys, so you will get those links to check out later. All right, so now I'd love it if anyone could ask any questions that they have for Phil or about anything we've talked about. And I do have one to get us started. Someone asked, a lot of people feel uncomfortable fundraising, mostly in asking other people to donate money. Do you have any tips to help with those concerns?
I think that, again, knowing why you're doing it, the reasons behind it, it's not just asking, it's not really, seeing it not as asking for money, but more as, supporting this cause is kind of the best way to get at it. It's always awkward awkward to start a conversation like that, but if you are, I think if you are sure in your convictions as to why you're doing it, you can get over that hump.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to unmute everyone. Are there any other questions out there? Phil, would you mind taking 1 second to explain what a good editorial calendar, first of all, what it is for like a week-long thing for like this, and what, like, to what extent you should plan out your content instead of reacting, or in addition to?
Yeah, sure. So an editorial calendar for me, would have a couple columns. It would have the dates, the platforms, and the kind of like messages, the images, and the links all together in kind of like a Excel document, for example. And I would, for a week-long thing, I would definitely spend some time trying to, if possible, trying to ramp up so that when the with a countdown, for example, so when the week comes, you can kind of hit on full force, and then like ramping down afterwards, sharing kind of the success of the campaign. But like I said, it's I can send in some examples of how I structure a content calendar. And an editorial calendar. There's different, for different platforms you use different things, but basically it's like, like I said, date, channel, message, image, links, etc.
Awesome. All right, unmuting everyone. Any other questions? All right, I got one more question sent to me. Ideas from you, Philip, or Phil, I'm sorry. Reading and talking at the same time. What like good keywords or buzzwords maybe to fundraise from college students might be?
Good keywords or buzzwords?
Yeah.
Well, I would say, well, I guess in terms of keywords, it sounds like this, what you guys are doing are really kind of like really leveraging personal networks, and so networks and like friends of friends. So I think keywords are important for things like search and search engine optimization. But if people aren't necessarily Googling, Googling to your resume page, you might this might be less of a option. But I would say that in terms of like word choice and word and tone, I find that keeping positive and using kind of uplifting language over negative language and depressing stats, for example, tend to be more motivational in terms of getting people to act on clicking a link, and kind of like a join me in, or a will you help me in, that type of stuff, so that it's like when you're thinking about social media, you don't want it to be, you're generally not in a place to want to be kind of like putting it down like a sorry mood. So you're gonna want to keep it in the tone of like how people are interacting with these posts. And once you get to like a page like a Razzie or something like that, you can hit people with the sobering stats, but I don't think leading with them necessarily is the most effective way of doing it, especially for a younger audience.
That's a really good point. That may be saying what your rate of food insecurity is wherever you're serving or with your clients is maybe not the first thing that you want to say, but might be a good thing to have on your page for once people get there. That's a good point. All right, at this point, I would like to wrap things up. You guys have been with me for a while, and for that I am grateful. And I hope you learned some good tips and answered any questions that you had about our fundraiser and just in general positive ways to tell your Campus Kitchen story, which you can use clearly year-round, not just in this fundraiser. So thanks again for Phil for guest presenting. I appreciate your insight. I will email you all the MOU and the Prezi as I promised just in a few minutes. And if you have any other follow-up questions, you can always let me know. Other than that, Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Have a great weekend. Thanks so much.